Good morning. Happy Tuesday. EB here on the Anything But Bland weekly update. Doing it a little earlier this week so I don't have to bother you guys on Wednesday, tomorrow, so everybody's getting ready for Thanksgiving. It's again just a great week. This time of the year, Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas, is my favorite time of the year. I get to see my kids. My daughter's coming home from Alabama today. Looking forward to seeing her. We only get to see her 3 or 4 times a year because she's a busy surgical resident. Looking forward to dinner on Thursday, getting ready, starting today, picking up a smoked turkey breast from Lewis's Barbecue in Charleston. A friend of mine's bringing it home. We're going to cook some steaks. Davis is going to smoke a brisket. He uses the Rectech 1250. We love the Rectech pellet grill. We also have a Green Mountain pellet grill. He likes the Rectech for his briskets, and he does it for about 12 to 14 hours on slow cook. Low and slow is the term for cooking brisket. And then on the Green Mountain, he likes the spatchcock chickens, and he cooks his steak, starts them on the Green Mountain, and then takes them to our gas grill. We have a big high BTU gas grill that really works at about 50,000 BTUs. So that's what really finishes them off and puts the grill marks on them. So I love Thanksgiving. I love watching football and just being with people. And I love the gray skies and the fall weather. So good morning. Rebecca LeBach said, do I miss the Pennsylvania weather? I do at times. Everybody likes a good snow, but I don't want to live in it for 3, 4 months intermittently from December through March. I miss the fall weather in Philadelphia because there really is a vibrant changing of the leaves, and you could smell the fires and things like that. But I love South Carolina weather. I mean, we do get 4 seasons. Winter is a little bit less, obviously. We don't get snow and ice, thankfully, but we get cold weather. I like it that I can golf 10 and a half months out of the year. The summer months are great from May and June. July and August and the first part of September gets really hot, but we're on the lake, so it's hard to complain. Spring in South Carolina is just as good a season as you can get. So let's start off with some light stuff, and then we'll kind of move into some more serious things today. The pardoning of the turkey. Yesterday, President Biden pardoned the turkey. Big gobbler. It was something I think named Peach. Usually they're like 40 to 50-pound turkeys, big, big, big gobblers. That started with Abraham Lincoln, believe it or not. He asked his father not to kill a turkey on Thanksgiving, and that kind of started the presidential pardon, so to speak. But the word pardoning a turkey didn't come about until John F. Kennedy actually used the word that he was going to grant a pardon to the turkey. And the word pardon obviously takes on more significant meaning with the new incoming Trump administration, because I think there's going to be a number of significant pardons that are going to be issued, and we're going to talk about that to some of the co-defendants in the cases that he was involved in. I next want to move on to Jussie Smollett. Remember him? He's the actor on that FX station. It was a family kind of dynasty TV special about, I think Cuba Gooding Jr. was on it, and they were rappers and big music industry. He is a gay actor, and as you recall, a couple years ago, he did what I can consider to be an unconscionable and unthinkable and dastardly human crime when he faked getting supposedly lynched with a noose around his neck and white powder thrown on his face, and they used the pejorative N-word and other racial epithets, and threatened him because he was gay and he was black, and he wanted to get sympathy from the public because he wanted to elevate his acting career. To me, it was a crime against humanity, something that I think, and I'm going to talk about it, that I think he should have served significant jail time, not only because of the crime in itself, but the resources that were dedicated to it. Um, you know, it's a heinous crime because it's accusing white people of targeting black people. Uh, Susan Smith did that in her crime where she targeted this alleged black man that carjacked her and her kids and threw the car in the lake and I mean, you know, took her kids. It's a crime against humanity. It's a crime against society. He's a total coward. He's a total fraud. If anybody supports him for what he did, shame on you. Um, and this week, his conviction, his second conviction, the first one was a no process charge, or there was an agreement with the prosecutor that he would agree to a disturbing the peace or something very minor. And in return, he would get no jail time, no record. And there was a huge public outcry because the district attorney for Chicago was a Black Lives Matter advocate. It happened around the George Floyd unconscionable murder that was done. By the way, Pete Hegseth, the Department of Defense candidate, actually says that George Floyd wasn't actually killed by the policeman. He was killed by drugs, which is just another way of trying to rewrite history in a heinous manner. He was killed because there was a foot and knee on his neck, but that's neither here nor there. So Jussie Smollett cuts this deal with a very liberal prosecutor, district attorney in Cook County, Illinois, that gave him basically a slap on the wrist. And as you remember, there was so many resources dedicated to this. For like 9 days, police were out there looking for, you know, this alleged white racist who did this to Jussie Smollett, put a noose around his neck, threw white powder, yada, yada, yada. And we felt so bad for Jussie Smollett. Turns out that he had a relationship with two guys who came from, I think, an African country. He met them at the gym, and he paid them to do this supposed, quote, crime against him. And there was a public outcry after this backdoor smoke-filled room agreement was entered into by this Cook County DA, who should have immediately been fired and disbarred. And the public came out and said this is not possible. So I think the state attorney general overrode her decision and re-prosecuted Jussie Smollett, and I think he was found guilty by a jury. And I'm not sure whether he served or not, but the case was appealed up to the Illinois Supreme Court, and they just reversed his conviction. Now, I'm a lawyer, and I'm going to tell you this, and I know I could probably get some people mad. It was the correct decision. When an officer of the court who is empowered by the state constitution makes an agreement with a litigant, a defendant, a criminal defendant, the state has to be bound by that agreement. The repercussion and the retribution isn't against the criminal defendant or his lawyer. It's against the state actor who agreed to such a ridiculous sentence or a ridiculous resolution. And we can't have a system where agreements and pleas are entered into, and then the public finds out about those, and then the court or prosecutors come back in and try to reverse it or negate it. Those are binding decisions. We can't have a court of justice and a rule of law where agreements are reached by those who are empowered with authority. So I think it was the right decision. What the Illinois Supreme Court said is they're bound by the original actions of this, I'm going to say, crooked prosecutor. Not really a prosecutor. She wasn't acting like a prosecutor. She was acting like a joke and a fan of Jussie Smollett and the African American community. I think it was just a real travesty of justice. But the fact of the matter is, an agreement was reached, and there should have been no way that that agreement should have been negated and then him prosecuted and ultimately convicted. I think he should have been tried the first time around. I think he should have reimbursed every single cent of this fake investigation and what all these off-duty police officers had to do in what the state of Illinois and Chicago incurred in costs. And I think he should have ended up getting somewhere between like 2 to 4 years in prison, and not just, I think, 90 days. So that is what I want to talk about Jussie Smollett. The next thing is Gaetz stepped aside last weekend, and Pam Bondi, who's the former two-term Attorney General for the state of Florida, was the new candidate for the United States Attorney General position. A much better candidate. While I may not agree with her with some of her political beliefs, certainly I don't believe that people who prosecuted President Trump, nor the congressional committees that investigated what happened after January 6th and the confidential documents case, that they themselves should be prosecuted. And that's something that she espoused. I certainly think she's highly qualified. She has a very good background. I believe at the end of the day, she will follow the rule of law because she's a serious lawyer. Matt Gaetz is nothing but a carnival barker. The interesting thing is now Gaetz is looking to succeed DeSantis as the governor of Florida. Florida has certainly changed over the last 10 years politically. It used to be considered kind of a blue-red state. Now it's totally red. The governors used to be Democratic, or they would be traditional Republicans like Jeb Bush or Charlie Crist. When he was a Republican, he switched to be a Democrat. But today it's certainly a bedrock conservative state with conservative politicians, Byron Daniels, obviously Gaetz. It's becoming more and more Republican, and that's the choice of the citizens. That's perfectly fine. But Gaetz is not, I don't think he's a serious lawyer. I don't think he's a serious politician. I think he's a flamethrower. I don't think he's trying to make society any better. I think he's trying to tear society down. But that is up to the state of Florida. I think there's been some good cabinet picks in the past week, some that I don't agree with, but the Department of Labor pick was somebody that the Republicans hate. She was a one-term congresswoman, I think, from Oregon, very pro-labor, and she was put in charge of the Department of Labor. So that's going to be an interesting thing. The Menendez brothers are set to appear in court. I think in about 60 days. There was some things that happened yesterday on the news. We heard their voices for the first time. Certainly, the family members are advocating that they get out of prison. They are acknowledging that there was abuse done by the father on these kids, and they say 35 years is enough. The only problem is, and there's always a rub, is that the district attorney who agreed to open up these cases and have them resentenced as youthful offenders after serving this 35 years lost the election. And the new incoming district attorney, who is more conservative, which I think is really good, by the way, for California. I think there needs to be more balance than just liberals running the state and running the court systems. He wants to look at this a little bit with a set of fresh eyes, and not so sure he's going to advocate that they have served enough, but it's ultimately going to be up to the judge. But a few weeks ago, it looked like a certainty that they were going to get out, but now we're not sure that's going to happen. The shot heard around the world yesterday was Jack Smith, the special counsel appointed by the Justice Department to prosecute the election interference charges in Washington, D.C. in front of Judge Chutney, and then also he was the attorney for the country prosecuting the classified documents case in Florida in front of the Fort Pierce judge who threw it out. Now it's up on appeal in the 11th Circuit, agreed yesterday to dismiss those cases without prejudice. So without prejudice means that they can be brought again. The problem is it's a Justice Department policy that you can't prosecute a sitting president. So because Donald Trump won the presidency, he cannot be prosecuted over the next 4 years. Technically, he could be prosecuted when he leaves office in 2028. If he leaves, we know that he's talking about getting a third term. But nobody in the country is going to have the appetite to prosecute a then 84-year-old man at that time. The country's probably going to be way over the insurrection. At least 50% of the country is going to be way over it. I think it scarred me for life, but that's another thing. So he is not going to be prosecuted. He wasn't going to be prosecuted anyways because he was going to pardon himself. He was going to fire Jack Smith, and his Justice Department, which is his hand-picked Attorney General, was going to immediately dismantle these cases. Good morning, Lisa. Good to see you again. The Justice Department would have dismissed these cases. The real problem is that Trump is now going to have the FBI investigate all of these prosecutors, everybody on Jack Smith's team, possibly prosecute them. Pam Bondi said that they should be prosecuted. Whether she does it or not, what I think what's going to be happening is there's going to be a congressional investigation, which is going to require these district attorneys and these Justice Department employees to have to spend their own money to get attorneys. I think they're going to be reported to their state bars. They're going to be subpoenaed for documents. It's going to be a rough 2 years for all of these people. Good morning, Shaheen. Lisa and Shaheen live up the street from me. They're great people, which is going to be a rough 2 years for these people. I think they're going to be fired even though they're civil servants that have job security. They're going to have to get a lawyer to petition to get their jobs back. I think their retirement benefits are going to be affected. It's going to be a nightmare for these people. But most importantly, I heard that Donald Trump is going to put Kash Patel either in the Justice Department or in the FBI or the CIA in a non-cabinet position that he doesn't have to be approved by the Senate to serve. It's an automatic appointment. Kash Patel is a real problem guy because he lied about his prosecution in the Benghazi cases. He was not a lead prosecutor, didn't prosecute those cases. And he has said some pretty inflammatory things. And what he said he's going to do is go after these people. But more importantly, he's going to destroy all of the evidence that was garnered by the Justice Department on the January 6 cases and the classified document cases. All videos are going to be destroyed. There's congressional committees that are going to destroy all the videos, all the evidence, all the affidavits. Now, obviously, some are floating around on computers that people may not be able to get to, but I would say at least 70% or 80% of the evidence that exists to prosecute Donald Trump is going to be destroyed. Therefore, even if they wanted to prosecute him, they're not going to be able to do it. So if I was Jack Smith, I'd get a different hairstyle and I'd run to Europe because there's no question, and you got to believe Donald Trump at his word and all of his surrogates, that he is going to be investigated and possibly prosecuted for what he did. Next, Wicked was released this week. Loved Wicked, saw it on Broadway. I'm not sure. Ariel Grande and the other actress are getting great rave reviews for what they did. They gave a pretty weird interview, and I'm not sure the movie's getting the reviews it should, but I know that a lot of people are going to go see it, so I'm not going to dump on that. Kind of excited for Gladiator 2 to come out. I love the original one with Russell Crowe and what's his name, Joaquin Phoenix. He played Marcus Aurelius was played by Russell Crowe, and then obviously Julius Caesar was paid by Phoenix, Joaquin Phoenix. So that's a really good one. The next thing that's kind of curious is all of these left-leaning stations, whether it's CNN and MSNBC, or gone through the post-election bedwetting, they're losing viewership, and I think they're making a knee-jerk reaction. But they're talking about taking Caitlin Collins from the 9 o'clock seat on CNN and sending her back to Washington to be the lead White House correspondent. Obviously, MSNBC is being spun off from Comcast. But here's the real rub. Elon Musk may buy MSNBC. It was posed to him by Donald Trump Jr. and some others. Hey, why don't you go buy up these liberal left-leaning stations, just like he threatened to do with X, formerly Twitter, for about 4 years before he bought it. When you got a guy that's got $335 billion, and he's the richest man in the world, he can buy anything he wants. And ordinarily, the FTC would not permit a monopoly to be owned by somebody like Elon Musk of television stations and different media outlets. But Donald Trump, who wants to eliminate, I'm sure, all liberal or countervailing opinion stations of his, and only wants conservative radio, conservative television, I think would have his FTC department and the Justice Department permit that purchase. So it's going to be interesting to see if Elon Musk purchases these left-leaning cable stations, and then there really will not be an outlet for the middle or those that consider themselves Democrats or liberal to have their news delivered to them, and that would be a real shame. I heard this morning that Donald Trump is going to be giving all the people incoming in his administration top secret clearance for information. And that's really troubling because, as we know, his cabinet selections haven't gone through the normal FBI background check that the FBI has information available to people. Obviously, the DOD Pete Hegseth is a perfect example because no one knew about his sexual assault allegation investigation of 2017 and the subsequent payoff that he did of the woman. And it could have been totally consensual, and I totally understand somebody paying somebody off. I've done it all the time on behalf of my clients, whether it's somebody who accepted money after contending that they were sexually assaulted or sexually harassed, and I've been on the other side representing somebody who's been accused of sexual harassment or sexual assault. So it's done all the time. Problem is that the FBI should have weighed in on these cabinet selections. We're seeing that the Office of Budget, the OMB budget director, is actually the Project 2025 author on what the federal budget should be. So you remember when Donald Trump ran for president and they asked him about the Project 2025, and he said, I know nothing about it. I don't intend to follow it. It's nothing on my radar. Well, it's turned out that if you look at 4 of his cabinet picks, they were the authors of specific sections of Project 2025. And Stephen Miller, who is his White House Policy Council director, actually formulated all of it together, was like an editor. So it does look like Project 2025 is going to have some part of the incoming Trump administration. So we should read it, understand it, and be on guard for that. Kash Patel is somebody that I worry about. Stephen Miller is somebody I worry about. I don't worry about Pam Bondi too much. I worry about parts of Robert Kennedy. I'm happy that he's going to be dealing, if he's approved by the Senate, on food issues. I totally agree on that. And pollution issues. He was an environmental lawyer. Totally agree on that. He's a wacko as it concerns, I think, with vaccines. He's certainly a wacko with saying the government's putting things in the water to make kids homosexual or transgender or gay, whatever you want to say. That's just not true, and it's dangerous when you start those kind of conspiracy theories. But elections have consequences, as Barack Obama told John McCain, and so Trump is going to get his picks through. Now, I am happy that the Senate doesn't want to cede its advice and consent. So I think all of these people, Tulsi Gabbard included, are going to have to go through the advice and consent process. If I was to be a gambler, I would say that out of Tulsi Gabbard, Robert Kennedy, and Pete Hegseth, I think that Hegseth is not going to be the DOD guy. I think Tulsi Gabbard may skate through, but it's going to be a bruising advice and consent. And I do think that Robert Kennedy will ultimately get through as head of HHS. Linda McMahon, she will get through. I think her role is just going to be to dismantle the Department of Education. And I think every one of Trump's other selections will get through. Very troubling, though, that he named a guy named Sebastian Gorkin, who is a hardcore conservative on a lot of issues, who has misrepresented his educational background. A lot of the conservatives and neocons can't stand him. He was actually terminated from the first Trump administration when John Kelly came in. If you listen to John Bolton, who is a conservative, said that he is the biggest fraud, the biggest joke as a selection on anything dealing with national security. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. The Denver mayor, it's an issue, interesting issue. The Denver mayor of Denver, Colorado said if the federal government's going to come in and try to remove a lot of these undocumented immigrants from his city, and there's tons of them. I think Denver has had the most influx of illegal undocumented immigrants. He said that the people of Denver are going to form what's known as, from 1988, the Tiananmen Square Circle. And that if they want to bring in tanks or whatever, we're going to stand there and prevent these people from being deported. And the incoming Homeland Security and immigration guy, Tom Homan, I think's his name, and he will be appointed. He said, "Get ready, because we're going to run over you. They're going to take out these and deport these immigrants." So that is a promise that Trump gave to his supporters, and I think he will follow through on it. Now, one of the things I said is we're going to hold Donald Trump to all of these promises and make sure that he does what he said he's going to do. Yesterday, he announced on day one he's going to impose a 25% tariff on all incoming goods, not just targeted goods, but all incoming goods. It's going to be an executive order against Canada, Mexico, and China. 25% import tariff. Now, the problem with that is he entered into an agreement with Canada and Mexico in his first term when it reversed and canceled NAFTA. You remember the North American Free Trade Agreement that Ross Perot said in the 90s was the great sucking sound. You remember he said when he ran for president, he said that it's going to be the sucking sound you hear as the jobs going to Mexico and Canada. Well, Trump reversed it, and he put a new trade agreement in it. The only problem is if he signs this executive agreement, he violates his own trade agreement that he entered into with Mexico and Canada. I've listened this morning on a lot of even Fox Business, and a lot of the economists have come out and said it will absolutely grind the economy to a halt. It would raise the cost of goods. It'll start a trade war where these countries will not import goods from the United States. So it will not only will it not cause additional manufacturing to take place in the United States and businesses to grow, but existing manufacturing will suffer because of this. There will be a raise in taxes. Inflation will go up, but we don't know if it's a long-term thing that those rebound effects will happen. We don't know how long inflation will go forward. We don't know how long the increase of consumer goods will be. But they said it's going to be an average hit to a hit on average to the American family of anywhere between $2,500 and $3,500 a year. Now, I'm going to say something that I'm blessed to say. $2,500 or $3,500 a year will not hurt me. I make a lot of money as a lawyer and in my investments in real estate. Blessed beyond belief, worked hard for it during my 63 years, not ashamed. Will not hurt me, but I can tell you I have friends and a lot of people I know that are clients and people in my life that $2,500 or $3,500 a year would be devastating for them. So that is what Donald Trump intends to do. College football last weekend was absolutely exciting. It was beyond anything you can imagine. Alabama lost, third game of the season for Kalen DeBoer. He is being pilloried by the Alabama faithful, and he should be. I think he is not a strong enough coach. I think he lacks discipline in himself, certainly doesn't instill it in his team. He's not a disciplinarian like Coach Nick Saban was. By the way, Nick Saban, I think his daughter lost her beloved dog. In addition to Kirkstreet, loved his golden retriever, so that's just a side note. But Kalen DeBoer is certainly in trouble. I think Brian Kelly at LSU is in trouble, and they'll pay him off. LSU has the money, even though he's probably due about $70 million. He lost the number one recruit in the country, who was a quarterback. He had offered him $6.5 million of NIL money, and Michigan, where he's from, finally got him to reverse his commitment and offered him $10.5 million. Ole Miss lost to Florida last week. Florida is turning into a giant killer. Florida under Billy Napier was a joke earlier in the year, but they got this new quarterback who's really, really good as a freshman. And they beat LSU last weekend, so Ole Miss now has 3 losses. So the top of the SEC right now are 3 teams, Georgia, Tennessee, and there's a third team. It'll escape me, but as I'm talking about it, Texas. They have 1 loss. So I don't see a path for Alabama getting into it, but I possibly see a path for South Carolina because they are a 3-loss team, but they lost to LSU when they were highly ranked, and they lost to Alabama. Both very close games. So I think Carolina possibly could sneak in. Last week, BYU lost its 2nd straight game. Indiana, that was undefeated, they lost to Ohio State, who I think is a hot team right now, and will get that automatic bye if they win the Big Ten championship. Whether Indiana gets in with a 1 loss, I'm not sure if they're going to get into the top 12. I think they're going to be like Florida State last year and maybe be shut out of the playoffs with 1 loss. They certainly don't have an impressive record against winning teams, even though it's hard to win 11 games and lose 1. I mean, just to win college football games and get ready every single week to prepare for different teams and get your kids motivated every single week and all the trials and tribulations you go through. It's not easy, even if you're beating Wofford. USC is a great football team. Kudos to Shane Beamer, who's done a great job. I think it's, I said yesterday, I think it's our best team we've had in 20 years. I think it's even better than some of the Spurrier teams. They score points. Lenore Sellers, as a redshirt freshman, I think is the best redshirt freshman quarterback in the country. He's Cam Newton. You cannot tackle this guy, tackle him. He will hurt you. They score points in bunches. Getting Rocket Sanders at running back was a great thing this year. And I think that we're going to have to find another type of 5th-year transfer portal running back like Rocket Sanders. Clemson is playing good. So I think this year's USC-Clemson game, Clemson needs it because they still have an outside chance, maybe 15-20%, in getting into the ACC if Miami loses and SMU continues to lose, to get into the championship game or somehow get into the 12th spot. I don't see it happening. But I think it's going to be the best USC-Clemson game in years. Colorado lost. I think Deion Sanders, it's going to that was his 3rd loss. That's going to knock him out of the playoffs. Certainly, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are in the Heisman Trophy selection. Kansas is a giant killer. Kansas killed BYU the week before, and they killed, they beat another team this week. So Kansas is really good. Notre Dame's going to get in. My Eagles are unbelievable. They're 9-2, very strong team. I think the three strongest teams in the NFL right now are four are the Bills, the Lions, the Eagles, and the Chiefs. I say that because I don't think the Chiefs are really in the top four, but they know how to win. I They had the ugliest win against the Panthers on Sunday. It was good to see Bryce Young show that he can play quarterback, but Travis Kelce is old. Patrick Mahomes does not throw the long ball deep anymore. The Chiefs' defense is good. The defensive line is great. Their defensive backs stink. Andy Reid's just such a great coach, and Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback of our generation, and they know how to win. But I think the Eagles and the Lions and the Bills are the best teams in the NFL. I think Saquon Barkley had 320 yards or 315 yards of total offense, 260 yards of rushing. I think he's the MVP candidate along with Josh Allen. And Jared Huff, obviously, at the Lions is probably third. Ohtani and Judge won the MVP of the National League. Ohtani did, and Judge of the American League. No surprise there. They're generational talents. Paul Skeens, who is the Pittsburgh Pirate pitcher from LSU and the boyfriend of Olivia Nunn at LSU, he won the Rookie of the Year. He's an old school pitcher. I really like him. The demise of Aaron Rodgers is something that is really sad. I think he's played injured. He won't throw the ball downfield. He doesn't run like he did anymore. And there was talk this week that they were actually going to bench him in New York. It was an absolute failed experiment. I think Coach Belichick may come off the sideline, whether he comes to the Jets. I think that Brian Daboll at the Giants is also going to be on the hot seat. They benched Daniel Jones and gave him his outright release. I think Daniel Jones can find a home either with the Ravens, with the Vikings. He wants to have at least a playoff run this year and then ultimately test the free agent market next year. I think the Raiders are going to make a run at him. So finally, Tulsi Gabbard, who is going to face hard scrutiny over her past support of Assad in Syria, discussions that she's had, and sympathies with Putin, is going to be facing hard scrutiny. You guys should know that she is an advocate for Edward Snowden, the guy who released national secrets, who's now residing in Russia, and then other whistleblowers, quote unquote whistleblowers. I don't think they're whistleblowers. I think they're just seditious people who steal national security secrets and blow their top clearance and release them on the internet. Now, she thinks he's an American hero because Snowden released a lot of the information that showed that there was eavesdropping and listening being done under the Patriot Act after 9/11. I don't view it that way. I don't think he's a hero. I don't think he should be pardoned, although Trump will consider pardoning him when he gets in office. The word pardon will come up right away because I think Donald Trump will pardon a lot of the January 6th riot insurrectionists, but he's also going to pardon his co-defendants in the insurrection cases as well as the classified document cases. Those are still going forward. Now, obviously, Pam Bondi or whoever's the new AG will cut those criminal charges out, and they will not go forward with them, and will either dismiss them or hold them in abeyance. But Trump's going to pardon the two people involved, his security guards, in the classified document case. So that was it. Didn't have a lot to talk about as much as I usually do, but again, I want to thank everybody for supporting me. The book actually came out. Here it is, Anything But Bland. Came out this week. The paperback, at least. The hardback will be out on December 29th. It's really exciting. A lot of people have called and won interviews, and some papers across the country are going to do some reviews. I'm really excited to have done this. whether it sells 10 copies or 20 copies, it's something that I think I can leave for my kids, and ultimately they'll share with my grandkids if my kids ever get married. But it was something that I think I never thought I would do, but I'm glad I did it. A lot of people pushed me to do it. And it's kind of exciting to see it come to fruition. It was a project that took a year and a half, a lot of my time. I'm going to do an audio book after the first of the year because a lot of people have been asking about it. It's I hit for the trifecta, as Kathy May said, my publisher from Publish. It's number one on both paperback, hardcover, and ebook on the hot list on Amazon, and it's stayed that way for the last 2 weeks. So that's pretty exciting. Humbled because of it. Going to start the book signings at Books A Million on December 7th. Going to do a podcast review of my book with all the people who give reviews, I think on December 12th. And then there will be book signings in Connecticut, Philadelphia, Columbia, Charleston, and Hilton Head, and we'll go from there. So thank you, everybody, for your support. Thanks for listening to me give these weekly updates. They mean a lot to me. Thanks for listening to the Good Skill Podcast, and when I'm on the Cup of Justice with Mandy Matney and Liz Farrell. Everybody have a blessed Thanksgiving. Take care.